us together. Living in a world, it's a struggle to stay alive. Somebody tell me, oh, why will we fight it? One love can set us free. We just let it be. Take off in a brand new day. Good love is all we need. The clouds away. Never need worry if we just let it be. One love, keep us together. Living in a world, struggle to stay alive. One love, keep us together. Living in a world, struggle to stay alive. You never need words, no, no. Let one love set you free.
Oh, I like this song. Hope you're feeling this song the way I am feeling this song. Wish we all just hang on to the love that keeps us together. It's so nice to have you join online live streaming with me this Friday. It is, thank God, it is Friday. Friday signifies the beginning of the time of rest, and when you can chill out and relax and chillax, whatever you call it. We do it all on Thank God It's Friday with Dr. Femi Paul, and I'm glad to welcome you on board today. It promises to be another nice time. We're all friends, brothers and sisters. I am sharpening iron and sharing the little nuggets of wisdom we have together, and when we put it all together, we're getting ready to have enough wisdom to launch out into the deep and come on, recover all that we have lost and bring in a great catch. Now, I certainly hope you've had a good week, and even it hadn't been so good, it's going to start being good even right now, because beyond all the fun that we have, we also pray for one another and help each other out. Thank God it's Friday. Here we go again. It promises to be explosive. I want to thank all our friends who gave us support and streaming live from across the world and helping us give out the free giveaways. And I'm going to be giving those questions that will entitle you to a nice giveaway airtime today. And I want to thank those of you that make contributions, and I'm going to be reading some contributions today. And I want you to all remember that without TGI, what else would we be doing? We'd probably be wasting this time doing something not so productive. Now, I want to say also that at TGIF, we'd like to hear from those of you that the little conversations we've had have been helpful to you, and you want to share that with us. And anyone who does that, we're going to throw you a nice freebie because it encourages us, and we share it with every other person. Now, TGIF, if you're joining us for the first time, let me tell you what it's all about. It's all about those enabling conversations that equips everyone to be the best they could be and be getting ready for what God has for them, and to enable us to thrive and overcome in difficult times. Conversations rule the world of those who are going to be the best in the game. The right conversations is what we need to be having, because with a conversation, nobody's telling you what to do. We're doing it together, we're learning together. Now, my favorite quotation about conversations, John Seeley Brown says, conversation is the catalyst for innovation. It triggers off your innovative thinking and gets you to be innovative in whatever situation, and boom, you get it right and everything turns around for good. Now, where there are no enabling conversations, there can't be any exchange of thoughts, and where there's no exchange of thoughts, there can be an upgrading of our opinions and no new understanding, and of course no new progress. So this is why it's good for us to have this conversation. And now, don't be shy and do not be selfish with your wisdom and what you know and your experiences. As you share, we'll share with you. We're all going to come out richer than when we came in. And I want you to be part of it today by posting your comments, your contributions. And if you don't agree, that's fine. On TGIF, nobody imposes anything on anybody. We respect your opinion, we respect your faith, we respect your humanity. We just enjoy one another and try our best to learn from one another. Today we go right into our conversation. And what are we talking about? I'm sure you remember last week, friends, frenemies, and enemies. Differentiating between them early enough. That was a blast. 2 Fridays back to back, and it is recording a lot of viewership because it is a very salient thing, because we realize that no one gets fulfilled in life without friends and family coming together. And I really, really love that season. I really enjoyed you, and I learned a lot from you. Please post your comments and how this helps you anytime on any of our social media platforms. So today we go right into it. What are we talking about? When you get tired. Someone say tired. You know, you can't say tired. It's tired. Exhausted and overwhelmed. What next? In this walk of life, or in this race of life, we get to a point in one area of life or the other when we just get tired out, totally exhausted and overwhelmed. What do we do? That's the subject. It's not a question of if you get tired. No. It's waiting for everyone. Now and then it happens when you get tired. And if you are not tired now, I celebrate you. Can you please share with us how you got over the last one? Because if you're doing good, that means you climbed that mountain successfully. And so this is the time I'm going to ask you to be a blessing by sharing this video, because somebody out there who's not listening to the right conversation or has no qualitative conversations going on is able to profit from this. So hit that button, share right now. Be a blessing. Be a blessing. And by so doing, we have a larger pool of wisdom to draw from. God bless you as you do that. Now, so we want to talk about when you get tired, and I certainly get tired. Come on now. I certainly feel exhausted sometimes, particularly in the year 2020. I got overwhelmed by all kinds of things, and we should learn from this, and we should get the better of it. Otherwise, it's just going to be a painful experience that went to waste. And so, but before we go into that, let me give away some airtime, but with our giveaway questions. And the giveaway questions that I have are very simple. It's all part of the fun. I'm just looking for an excuse to share some goodies with someone, which is what friendship is all about. It's not about the questions, it's about the fun. So the first question for my giveaway today is what was our last topic on TGIF? The last 2 Fridays we dealt with the same subject. What was that subject? If you get it right, boom, we're gonna hit your phone with 1,000 naira free airtime or data as you like. So you want to post that answer. The first answer gets this one. What was our last topic on TGIF? And it ran for 2 weeks, so you can't get that wrong. Okay, I'm going to give 2 more giveaway questions, and anytime you answer it, I'm going to agree with you that that's the right answer, and then you're going to post by private by DM, a private message to me, your preferred phone number, which may be a friend or your son's number, whoever you want to bless. Okay, so the next question is, name 2 Bible characters that dealt with this feeling of being overwhelmed. Name 2 characters in the Bible of people who got overwhelmed. That's easy now. Just two. And then you get my giveaway. The last question is, according to John Seeley Brown, conversation is a catalyst for what? I just said it in my opening. I know I always say that. I love that thing. It is a good place to take off from. According to John Seeley Brown, the quotation I usually open up with, conversation is a catalyst for what? One word. And boom, you get the blessing. Okay? Now, I have given you 3 chances to get a free giveaway gift. Now, if you don't get any, it ain't my fault. All right. Let's go into the discussion of the day. I may repeat these questions as we have time. When we get tired, when we get exhausted and overwhelmed with some issues of life, what next can we do? What next should we do? And what next should we not do? What should we do? What should we not do? And when should we do whatever we're supposed to do? What is the next action? What should we not do? What should we do? Very critical. Let me break the ice by telling you that, do you know that even Jesus got overwhelmed? Now that sounds like sacrilege, but it is not. Even Jesus dealt with being overwhelmed. Let me read the text of the Bible to you that proves it. In Matthew 26 verses 37 to 38, I'm reading from the New International Version of the Bible. The Bible says, Jesus took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled, deeply troubled. Then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed. My soul is overwhelmed with a lot of things, with sorrow, with pain, to the point of death. My soul is overwhelmed. Stay here and keep watch with me in prayers. So even Jesus got overwhelmed. Now, who then will not be overwhelmed in life? So this is not a subject to be discussed by lazy weaklings who can cope with life. No, it's standard. It's all part of the mix. It's all in the mix of life. But it's not, it ought not to knock out our light. We're supposed to get the better of it and move on in life. And we have help from the Lord. His example is there in the Bible. Okay. Now, whilst I have established that the king himself got overwhelmed for what he was prepared for. Before he came to the earth, he knew what the agenda was. He was ready for it. He still got overwhelmed. So no matter what your plan is in life, no matter what your purpose is, no matter how educated you are, you will get overwhelmed in one area of life or the other at different times on different segments of your life. So we might as well get ready for it, understand it, master it, be able to recognize it when it is coming, and be able to ride the winds. Listen, the plane takes off on the opposing wind on the principle of lift. Ooh, this is good. Now, I want to talk about the danger of being exhausted. Being exhausted is tough enough, but really it's a prelude to another bigger danger. So the danger is that exhaustion and being overwhelmed tends to drive us into the hands of the devil by making us engage the wrong reactions. I say that again. The danger is that exhaustion and being overwhelmed tends to drive us into the hands of the devil by making us engage in the wrong reactions to being overwhelmed. So it's not what overwhelmed you that's the worst enemy of your life. The worst enemy is what you do about it if you end up doing the wrong thing according to the plan and the script of the devil. Just chases us into his waiting nasty hands. The way it works is that it's a setup. When you're overwhelmed, we will not fall prey of our enemy in Jesus' name. So the questions we need to really address is, how does this experience of being overwhelmed, how does it play out in real life. I mean, I'm not talking about Nollywood, I'm not talking about Hollywood here, in real Korokoro life. How does the experience of being overwhelmed, being tired, exhausted, and overwhelmed, how does it actually play out in life? The sequence, the metamorphosis, the stages, and where it tends to be wanting to drag us to. The next question is, what are you tempted to do when you're going through this overwhelming experience, when you're overwhelmed and just exhausted in life? What are you tempted to do about it? We're all the same, most and generally. Our temptations are generally the same. So what are those temptations that we feel when we're exhausted and overwhelmed? What are those temptations? Because those temptations are actually pre-programmed, like I said, to drive us into the hand of the devil, who really wants to hammer us and destroy a lot of things about our lives. So we need to know what those temptations are. And the third question is, what is helpful at such distressful times of being exhausted, tired, and overwhelmed? What are the things that we find helpful? We want to share this bread with one another so that we can be a blessing to someone and we will learn from someone else. That's what TGF is all about. It's brothers, friends, and family getting together, just loving on one another, sharing the bread of wisdom together, and having a blast of a time. I'm going to leave you this evening with a nice outro song that says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Ooh, I'm already in the groove. Ooh, hallelujah. Okay, but I want the answers to these three questions. How does this experience play out in life that we're talking about? What are we tempted to do when we're going through this distressing experience? And what are the helpful things that we can learn from each other at such times when we're totally exhausted and overwhelmed with the issues of life? Now, I'm waiting for you to come on board, and some of you are playing this game. You're going to wait to the end, and I'm going to be trying to let's get started on a very big note. Let me attempt to answer one of the questions I asked when talking about the temptations of what are the temptations we have, what are we tempted to do when we're going through this experience of being exhausted, tired, and overwhelmed. One of the answers that comes to my mind, and I want you to post yours, is many of us tend to snap. When you're overwhelmed, you just go crazy, you just snap. And when you snap, it's not a good thing, because you snap from your cognitive self, you snap from your rational self into some reckless being. When people snap, they don't act normal anymore. They throw caution to the wind, and they can break a lot of things, break some relationships, break some investments that they ought not to. So when we're overwhelmed, we at the end of our wits, we tend to snap. It's like an elastic band pulled beyond capacity. Anytime thereafter, it can snap. That's the danger of when we're overwhelmed. We snap and we become reckless. We say reckless things. We do reckless things. We need to put a cap on this thing before it wrecks whatever is left of our good lives. I want those answers. What are you tempted to do when you're going through this season, when you're just overwhelmed with the issues of life? Okay, I've given you one answer. We snap. And sometimes we indulge in ourselves in self-pity. Do I need to define self-pity to you? No, you know what it is. When you just pity yourself. Say, Lord, not only me. Waiting. How come all this is befalling just little me? We indulge. That's the word, indulge ourselves in self-pity. I'm going to read some quotations to you about self-pity in a while, so that you know that this thing is the no-go area. It produces nothing good, even though it kind of makes you feel good for a very short time. And so to the answer to the question, what are we tempted to do when we're going through this season, when we're overwhelmed with life? Another thing we do is we may resort to playing the blame game. It's called the blame game. You look for somebody to blame. You look for an institution to blame, and some people even blame God. Are you there? Okay, Ibukoluwa, thank you for coming on board. You say we're tempted to retract our services to God and humanity. Ibukoluwa comes along and says one of the things we are tempted to do is to pull away from serving God and humanity. Laide says we're tempted to isolate ourselves from others. That's a good one too. Kind of feel so sorry for yourself and say everybody's life is better than my own. Let me just stay by myself. Or sometimes we stay away from people because we think those people are part of the problem. The same people you're staying away from may be the one God is going to send to change your situation. So it may be counterproductive. So it's a tendency to withdraw from others. So when we going through a season of being overwhelmed, these are the temptations. I have another one here. We, apart from resorting to playing the blame game, which means we do not look in the mirror. Somebody said those that play the blame game, instead of looking into the mirror to see what they're doing wrong, they look in through the window to see who is passing by and what they possibly could have done to exacerbate or cause the problem. So instead of looking into the mirror, you're looking through the window. Okay. And so another thing we do is we tend to go on a binge, drinking binge, retail therapy binge. Do you know what that is? Retail therapy. When you go to the retail shops with your credit card that is already almost maxed, and you buy just recklessly because that's what you feel like doing. You buy the things you don't need, run up bills you cannot pay. And so when we're feeling overwhelmed, the temptation for some people is to binge. Some people binge, they eat rubbish, junk food. Some people drink, and some people go out and stay out late. Some people drive too fast, and all kinds of things that we binge to solve or to placate our distressed soul. When you're overwhelmed, it's in your soul. And you know, the soul and the spirit are so close. Woo! It's a tough place to feel pain. We binge to solve or to placate our distressed soul, or we become withdrawn. We become cynical. Anything anybody says, now so, I don't hear. I beg. Cynical, irritable, and sometimes it graduates into suffering, lack of motivation to do anything constructive. You just wake up at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, watch nonsense TV that means nothing, flipping channels in your pajamas that you wore for 3 days. Now it smells bad, and then you eat pizza, you don't throw away the box, and you don't go to work and all that. So really, how does that solve the problem? Binging doesn't solve the problem. That's why, brother, sister, we got to talk. That was yesterday. We've lost enough time. Come on, let's get real. We got to learn to conquer the feeling of being overwhelmed, because it's standard. It comes around now and then. And I want you to keep your answers coming, and I hope I haven't missed any. Leke says there's a tendency to withdraw from people, withdraw from friends and family, and that's not good, because after a while people accept you like you don't want anyone to relate with you, and by the time you want to come out of this, your reclusion or seclusion, everybody's gone. And then you find out that you caused it. Okay, DJ, thank you. I'm glad to see you on. I see my brother Tunji. That's nice to have you, Tunji. He says, Deji says you're tempted to look for solace in the wrong places or in the wrong people. Oh, ouch. That is a monumental one. You tend to look for solace. There's always Bathsheba somewhere there. It's not always a male thing or female to do it. So please, we shouldn't fall for that temptation. I said that the feeling of being overwhelmed, the danger of it is that it kind of herds us into where the devil wants us to go, and something terrible is waiting for you, like Samson and Delilah or Bathsheba, who will be having a shower where you can see her. Boom, you're done, you're finished. So, okay, Chola, thank you for coming on board. And you say we become suspicious of everyone. Yeah, because particularly we that were Yoruba people say, my village people, it be like say they fire one arrow. I don't know who brought this thing into my house. Maybe they stuck it to the bottom of their of their shoes and they walked all over my house, and all of a sudden bad luck is just happening all over the place. And so the next person that comes visiting, you don't want to open your door. Maybe the person even brought a letter of interview or for the whatever you submitted for. You just don't let them in. So Itiola is right. We become suspicious of everyone. Meanwhile, it is people that God will send to bless you. It is people that God will send to help you. So when you become suspicious, may we not drive away our helper in Jesus' name. So I want you to keep your answers coming. I'm talking about the question, what are we tempted to do when we're going through the season, when we're overwhelmed and we're tired and we're exhausted and it feels like your head is pounding and it's going to explode and you can't see the sun rising? What are things you do? Okay, Daniela, thank you for coming on board. You say we become overly emotional in a negative way. She hit on the very good one. Very, very emotional, negative emotions. You tend to snap at others unnecessarily or pour out your frustration on the wrong person. You nail that one. You nail that one. That is a serious one. What? Olabisi says we start being guilty of overthinking and transferred aggression. Can you see? We may end up hurting the person who was going to help us. You know, when you're being overwhelmed, you see a number that is not on your phone, so it's an unknown number, and you pick it up and you growl at the person. My friend, yes, what is it? Why are you calling me? And meanwhile, it's the deputy MD of a company where you submitted a proposal and is wondering, well, how come they blocked this proposal? No, I don't trust this guy in my system. I'm going to talk to this person myself. And you growl at the person, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I called at the bad time, dropped the phone. You never knew what you missed. You know, when blessings never arrive, it doesn't mean they didn't leave heaven. We may have sent it away at our doorstep just because we're overwhelmed by the bills. And that phone call was going to more than pay the bill, and we got, by transferred aggression to a number we don't recognize, we shut the door of blessing, the big door of blessing God is bringing out. That's why we need to have enabling conversations, and that's why you must be at TGIF all the time, because it better prepares us to handle difficult times like this and not get drowned in it, and overcome it and launch out and springboard to the best that we could be according to the will of God for our lives. What? No, Itiola, where are you going there? There's a tendency, she says, to start running to prophets and pastors and imams and medicine man. And then when we are overwhelmed, we can believe any rubbish, anybody just who knows how to play the psychological game. And you become actually a lackey to somebody who's going to be extorting money from you, because you're vulnerable when we feel overwhelmed. We need to talk. We need to talk. I want you to keep your answers coming. I need you to keep your answers coming. So with that, let me now throw something at you again. Let's consider in our transferred aggression, our having our pity parties, blame gaming, which with everybody around you're blaming them for being the source of trouble to you and so on. How then do we come across to those around us when we are going through this tough season, by the way we are behaving, the way we are suspicious, the way we ignite and explode the transferred aggression, by looking for comfort in the wrong places, by binging or speeding, drinking, staying out late, doing all kinds of things just to placate or to salve our distressed soul, when we're snap and we're reckless, what we should pay attention to is how do we then begin to come across to those who are around us, those who are members of our family, colleagues at work, our friends and family, because these people are always around us. So when we are tired and exhausted and overwhelmed, and we begin to succumb to these temptations, and we've listed so many of them, we should stop a minute and to say, how do I now begin to come across to people around me, in my home, in my office, amongst my friends? Do you know it takes forever to build a good reputation or a good name? It takes very little to smash it. When you ignite, when you blame everybody around you for what you're going through, by the time you come out of that situation, the way they see you is now colored by the myriad of negative responses and the temptations that you succumb to when you were overwhelmed. It is difficult for them to relate with you the way they used to relate with you, because we all process things and there's always a residue after an encounter in our hearts, and it colors how we see people and how we begin to respond to them. Don't be surprised when people become very cautious about you. Don't be surprised that people are not so friendly anymore. Don't be surprised that people are very anxious about what you're going to do. So rather than risk you being aggressive towards them, or to snap at them, or to say something or do something reckless, they kind of avoid you. And listen, bad things can avoid us, good things can avoid us too in the process. So we need to have this conversation, because what we're going through now, what is overwhelming us now, may be as a result of bad handling of another season when we're exhausted and tired and overwhelmed because of our overreactions. Now it has colored the way people see us, because you can't see yourself the way they see you. You can only get the feeling by the way they act or not act towards you. We can solve that problem now, nip it in the bud, turn it around, and so God help us, and so it will be in Jesus' name. Okay, now talking about how we come across to people around us. Can you imagine your office? If you're going through a season when you're overwhelmed in your marriage, and you start snapping in the office, you become reckless, you demonstrate transferred aggression, you're suspicious, you're all kind of thing going on. When it is good and over, it is hard for anybody to keep you on the high level that you used to be. Most and generally, you have been demoted in their minds to a certain degree. I say to you, this subject, it's a potential booby trap. How we respond in the times you are overwhelmed, it's a booby trap when we succumb to the temptations to do some wrong things to placate the difficult, distressing soul that we now have during these difficult times. Are you there? Okay, let me give you some quotes on blame game and self-pity. Do you know that the normal thing when people are overwhelmed with life is that they are going to indulge in self-pity? We all do, but in varying degrees, and most people play the blame game thing, because the general thing is that people don't like to take responsibility for where they are. So let me give you some quotes that will help us. On self-pity, Anne-Marie Aguilar, very bright lady, said this: when we pity ourselves, all we see is ourselves and our problems. We don't see the good things in our lives. Whew. When we pity ourselves, all we can see is ourselves and our problems. We don't see the good things in our lives. So what it means is self-pity blinds you to the other good parts of your life that you could have used to at least ameliorate how you feel about now and still have a sense of gratitude towards God and have a better attitude to life, which is more helpful than a bad attitude. Along comes John Gardner, and he says self-pity is easily the most destructive narcotic. Yes, I said narcotic. John Gardner says self-pity is easily the most destructive narcotic. It is addictive and it gives momentary pleasure, but it also has a paralyzing effect on the victim. So when you are indulging in self-pity, you're already a victim that's getting ready to find out. It is like a drug. The word narcotic is a drug. It says it's easily the most destructive narcotic. It is addictive and it gives momentary pleasure, which means it's a very fleeting solace that you get, and then your mouth and your life is full of granite and gravel. But it also has a paralyzing effect on the victim, because when you let yourself respond negatively to a season when you're temporarily overwhelmed and that temptation makes you indulge in self-pity, you're on a drug. You're going to become a druggie, and it has the effect of paralyzing your way you think. You don't think clearly anymore. You don't talk sensibly anymore. It paralyzes the positive parts of your life. It is a terrible thing to do. This one knocks the socks off me. Anton S. Martin says self-pity is spiritual suicide. Self-pity is spiritual suicide. It is an indefensible self-mutilation of the soul. Pity is spiritual suicide. It is an indefensible self-mutilation of the soul. Bam! Finish. Period. Okay, Shegun says self-pity is a dark cloud that will block out even the brightest sunlight right in the middle of summer. It can lead to sickness. Trust me, I have been there. It's not a good place to be. Thank you, Shegun, for sharing that. It's so touching. And thank you for sharing your heart. This will help someone. It is a booby trap of the enemy. There's nothing good that comes out of it. Let me now give you my quotes on blame gaming. Charles F. Glassman says, when converted into productive thought and action, the energy it takes to play the blame game is enough to launch anyone into the heights of real success and happiness. Ooh. Ooh. I feel like speaking in tongues. Shut up. Ooh. When converted into productive thought and action, the energy it takes to play the blame game is enough to launch anyone into the heights of real success and happiness. So it is energy wasted. Whew. It is a terrible way to empty your life, blame gaming. Loren Wiseman says, playing the blame game is childish. Even if it is someone else's fault, the blame game is wasted effort, is wasted energy that takes you somewhere that is not going to get you anywhere. I like the alliteration. Playing the blame game is childish, even if it is someone else's fault. The blame game is wasted. It is wasted effort, is wasted energy that takes you somewhere that is not going to get you anywhere. The last one is by E.A. Bucaneri and says, poor God, how often God is blamed for all the suffering in the world. It is like praising Satan for allowing all the good that happens. You're blaming the wrong person. It's Satan that is in charge of all our hard times. Now, I haven't gotten any answers to my giveaway question, and I hope, except I missed yours. Okay, what is SP? SP is a principal cause of insomnia, sleeplessness. Okay, I'm not sure I know what SP is. Am I missing something? Okay. Okay, Odunayo says, so self-pity is misdirected energy. Absolutely correct, Odunayo. Self-pity is misdirected and wasted energy. there's nothing good that's going to come out of it. So we might as well not waste our energy that way. Now, I asked a question, name 2 Bible characters that dealt with feeling overwhelmed. I'm going to say nobody answered that question. Oh, okay, SP is self-pity. Okay, so Dave says self-pity is the principal cause for insomnia, sleeplessness. What? And no, once you don't sleep, your body doesn't reboot, and you're going to fall sick, and your immunity is going to drop, and you're going to be heading towards an early grave. That's no point. SP, no good. That's a quote. SP, no good! Exclamation mark. Okay, now thank you, Dave, for that. God bless you. Now, we want to look at Bible examples of people who got overwhelmed and they messed up because of that. Now, let me talk about Moses. Moses, the Lord said to him, I'm going to make you a great leader. Of all the Jews, you're going to be monumental in the history of the world. And so at a point in time, they were complaining about water and something. And the Lord said to him at the bitter waters of Mara, he said, speak to the rock and water will come out. But he was so overwhelmed with the complaints of the people. Today they don't like the manna, tomorrow is the water, tomorrow is the fish. He was overwhelmed. Bible says he struck the rock twice. And for that reason, the great anointed one of God was not allowed to enter the promised land. He was just overwhelmed by the complaining nature. They're always whining. The miserable people, ungrateful people. He let them put him at loggerheads with the Lord. It wasn't him that the Lord had a problem with, but he succumbed to the temptation and struck the rock. I say, must we not bring water from the rock? He was equating himself with God. Instead of saying, will God not bring water? I said, will we not bring water from the rock? He never entered the promised land, the one that was supposed to take them there. Be careful how we succumb to the temptation when we're overwhelmed. I'll give you another example, and this is why we must really take this seriously. So Moses was chosen by the Lord. Along comes Esau. You know, Abraham, Isaac, Esau, and Jacob. Now, Isaac had twins, Esau and Jacob. The one that came out of the womb first is called Esau. And you know that they struggled in the womb, and for him to have come out first, it means the blessing of the first son was on him by birth. He didn't need to do anything. He didn't need to earn it. God allowed him to come out, so he had it. You know what he did? He sold his most valuable asset, his birthright, for a pittance, because he was overwhelmed with the exhaustion and hunger. He was just tired from the hunting. He was exhausted from the walking and whatever, and he was overwhelmed by the accompanying hunger pangs. And he said, what does my birthright mean to me? Listen, when you're overwhelmed, the enemy is always around to make you commit an atrocity like Moses, never to enter the promised land that you were supposed to take people to. In fact, you were going to divide the land for them. And for Esau, his generation till tomorrow missed it because he got overwhelmed. And so the list goes on. And sometimes, like the wife of Lot, have you ever thought of that? That is a very serious one. She was so overwhelmed with Lot's problems. Saw him lose his house, lose his business, lose his children. She was so overwhelmed. It wasn't her problem, it was his problem. She was so overwhelmed with his problem that she said to him, you better curse God and die. At that point, the mask shifted. Whether Lot used to love her or think she was a good person, it was over. The game was over. Because she thought that was the end. You see, when we succumb to the temptation, when we're overwhelmed and tired, it is something tells us this thing cannot change. But what is it God cannot change? After she spoke that nonsense, Lot prayed for his friends. God turned his captivity around, gave him twice as much. Even his former friends came back. Everybody was giving him gold rings and so on. Please, I want to ask you, where do you think Mrs. Lot went to hide? Why did she commit that atrocity? It was just because she was overwhelmed. My prayer. Okay, I kept saying Lot, I meant Job. Job. I don't know why I mix up the name. So is Job, the wife of Job, is the one that spoke this nonsense, and Job, God still turned the things around. And I ask again, the wife of Job, where would she hide when God turned everything around? So be careful how we react when we're overwhelmed. It may not even be your problem. You may be overwhelmed with the problem of a child. You may be overwhelmed by a problem of your office. You may be overwhelmed by financial problems. You may even be overwhelmed by your health problems or somebody's health problem. Be careful, because at the right time, God can turn it around. So we have to talk about this thing. Let me read a contribution. Okay. Well, let me read the contribution from Shegun. Oh, our time is running so fast. I don't know, but we may have to do a part 2 of this, because we're just opening up the subject. But please give me a thumbs up if now you suddenly realize how important this subject is. Just throw me a thumbs up, give me a high five, send that emoji, because I'm all fired up. And I'm looking at all the times I succumbed to wrong temptation, and I exacerbated my problem and slowed down my progress to where I'm supposed to be going. But now that I am learning by this enabling conversation that this thing is standard, you're going to feel tired, whether it's marriage, whether it's your office, you're going to feel exhausted in one area of your life or the other, with one child or the other one. We are going to feel this thing, you're going to feel overwhelmed, but that's not the big problem. It is what you do about it. And there is a plan to make you subvert your destiny by the wrong reaction, like Job's wife. I don't know what Job did about her, but I don't want to be Job's wife when the Lord turned things around. Okay, let me read a contribution from Shegun. It's a very good one. It says, I like to look at this from 3 angles. Physical tiredness. It said, this to me is the form of tiredness on the lowest rung of the ladder. When physical exertion happens, you're bound to get tired. Generally, just adequate rest can cure this and get you back in top shape. That's simple. Mental tiredness and exhaustion and mental being overwhelmed mentally is what the next one he talks about. It says, according to an article on healthline.com, mental exhaustion, which is tiredness, can happen to anyone who experiences long-term stress. It can make you feel overwhelmed and emotionally drained, and make your responsibilities and problems seem impossible to overcome. Doesn't that sound familiar? It is at this point that we generally blank out and we don't know what to do. And even when we decide to do something, our poor state of mind, our ravaged state of our soul tends to drift to numbing habits we already have, like overeating, excessive binging, drinking, immoral activities, taking solace in the wrong place. Thank you for all the thumbs up. Mine is up as well. The article goes on to say that feelings of detachment and apathy can wreak havoc on all aspects of your personal and work life. The feelings of detachment that as a response to your being overwhelmed, and apathy can wreak havoc on all aspects of all your personal and work life. That looks like a total devastation, annihilation of the good things in a man's life, just because you're overwhelmed. The third is the blank state of not knowing what to do next. The blank state of not knowing what to do next when you're overwhelmed. You sit down like this. Personally, when I don't know what to do, what next to do, I do the only thing I can do, and that is I pray and I leave it to God. Sound counsel. Stop twitching. Stop fretting when you don't know what to do. There's one thing everybody knows how to do, is pray about it. because you can make it worse when you're trying to fix what you don't have the capacity to fix. So he says, I pray and leave it to God. Then he asks the question, do I always do this? No, far from it. Sometimes I get so down, I am moved to tears and feel sorry for myself, and this is not a safe place to be, he says. In other times, I just over binge. However, what has helped me so far is realizing that the feeling of tiredness and being overwhelmed is normal. Once in a while, it is normal. This simple realization has helped me put things in perspective, so I can now manage these kind of phases better. So now I have learned how to manage the phase. It is only a phase. I've learned to manage better. That's a good one. Thank you, Shego, for your contribution. Okpayemi says, how does this experience play out in real life? The question, how does this experience play out in real life? She says, I start having frequent headaches. Every day seems like a bad day. I feel exhausted all the time. I have a sense of failure and self-doubt looming over me. The feeling of being helplessly trapped and defeated is with me all the time. I feel detached, feeling alone in the world. I suffer a loss of motivation, an increasingly cynical and negative outlook to life, and decreased satisfaction and sense of accomplishment across board. Now, 2 or 3 will resonate with you, whoever you are. And this is showing that we're all the same, but we need some wisdom. And so to the question, what are you tempted to do when you're going through this experience? The temptation, this is the way Okpayemi feels. I just shut down and isolate myself from others. Now, please, how does that solve the problem? I numb the feeling of being overwhelmed by binging on movies, which you have to pay for, and eating junk food that you have to spend money to go to the gym to get out of your system. And if you're in the wrong side of age, your arteries will start hardening and you're subject to stroke and heart disease. Can you believe that? So talking about the temptations, it says the temptation is I withdraw from responsibilities, I procrastinate on things I should do, I take out my frustrations on others, and I skip work sometimes or just come late to work. Oh, what has helped you at such times? To that question, she says, what has helped me is I finally talk about it and sometimes take a break. I talk about it. Of course, to the right people. There's no point talking to the wrong people. They make it worse, or they now gossip about you. I talk about it, I presume, to the right people, and take a break sometimes. You know, sometimes when you sleep over a matter or you leave it for a few days, you begin to see another perspective that was there all the time that you couldn't see before. Somebody ought to give me a clap for that. That's a serious nugget there. So talk about it and stop binging on movies and nasty fast food. It will kill you anyway. And allow myself, this is very important. It says, what has helped you? I allow myself to feel what I'm feeling and cry if I have to. There's a way when you cry over something, you can come out feeling better, and you can now be able to resolve to fix the problem and do whatever you have to do. It's like diffusing, releasing tension from an over-pumped tire or balloon, and just ease the tension and you're better able. Okay, Deji, I see you. You say self-pity could lead to depression. How? Did you look into my notes? It can lead to depression. Thank you, Deji, for that. This could also be a medical condition that should be checked medically if it continues. With prayer and treatment, healing is around the corner. Amen. To anyone dealing with depression, you will be cured, you will be healed in Jesus' mighty name. Okay. I hope you're learning something. Thank you for all the thumbs up and the clapping. Hey, we're doing this together. I still want to hear from you. Now, my time is running out, particularly on Instagram. I'm thinking, Facebook, they are my friends. You can go on a little longer. Maybe we're going to log out and log back in for 15 minutes, an additional 15 minutes, and see how far we can get. And I trust that you will bear with us, because this discussion is a timely discussion in the year 2020. Aren't you tired this year? aren't you exhausted? All the things we had to deal with? Aren't you overwhelmed by it? As a matter of fact, for most countries, they're going through another rising of the COVID thing. They introduced another shutdown in Australia, in parts of the EEC. What's going on here? So if we're going through a season that's overwhelming, we got to know how best to deal with this. So for my friends and my family on Instagram, we're going to log out temporarily and then gonna come back in right away. In the meantime, enjoy the music. And Facebook, stay with me. Just give us a minute so that our friends on IG can join us. Let's go.